Good evening. We're going to call to order the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting. Today is Monday, April 1st, 2024. The time is 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to approval of minutes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 4th, 2024 work session meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Abstain.
Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion with one abstention. Next, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 4th, 2024 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 4th, 2024 executive session meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next up for announcements, presentations, we have our town manager's update. Mr. Tierney.
Good evening, members of the council, public here this evening, and those of you who are watching at home. You may have seen that we started the dune restoration today at the beach. It's not the beach sand replenishment portion. It's simply the dune restoration with the building up of the dunes and the dune grass that will be soon planted there. As we get past the storm season, we'll move forward with other repairs to the beach. I received several inquiries from taxpayers regarding this squatters that has popped up across the country where people occupy vacant or unoccupied homes, and they just asked for some guidance. And I'll make it clear for everyone, in Narragansett, if you call the police and someone is in your home illegally, they will respond and they will escort the trespassers out. And if they resist, they'll drag them out. It's plain and simple. This conduct will not be tolerated in the town of Narragansett. This does not apply to tenant situations, but squatters, people who break into your home. They won't be allowed to stay there, period. 2 weeks ago, I informed the council of 2 undocumented illegal aliens that were arrested on felony charges by the PD. An update on the status of both of those individuals, that they remain in federal custody awaiting a deportation hearing. As such, they can't commit crimes in Narragansett or anyone else for that matter. Thanks to the PD for a job well done. Public Safety Infrastructure Grant Award. The town has been awarded $952,950 from the Public Safety Infrastructure Grants Program. It will be used to expand and renovate the Narragansett Fire Emergency Medical Service Station on Point Judith Road. This, if you recall, this project is already being funded with American Rescue Plan Act funds, and this will add to that and help us get the much-needed renovations done. And again, I would like to congratulate Chief Partington, who has worked tirelessly both on the renovation project and securing the grant. So thank you, Chief. Another one from the Chief. Chief Partington met with FEMA regarding the standing mobile registration center for residents and businesses affected by the December and January storms who would like to register for eligibility claims under the FEMA Individual Assistance Program or with the U.S. Small Business Administration Loan Program. The FEMA team will be opening a mobile registration information center this week at the town library Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So it'll be April 3rd, 4th, and 5th. This is posted on our town website and our social media sites as well. Chief, thank you for meeting with them today and providing all that information. Rhode Island Commerce Streetscape and Main Street Grant Program. The state opened it up for another round. The town has submitted 4 grant applications in response to the state offering another round of the program. They include the Gansett Loop Trail and Wayfinding Project, a board training and education project, which would train all our volunteers. There's on board a variety of things, Robert's rules, open meetings. It'll be a formalized training program. Additionally, the linear park creation, and then the Memorial Square revitalization. Those were submitted last week.
Excuse me, Jim, do we know how much money is in this round?
I do not.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holland, so the date's wrong up there. I didn't know if that was your April Fool's joke today, so we just need to update that since that slide's the background for the meeting. Thank you. All right, so next we will move on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Counselor Lawler, second by Counselor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, moving on to new business from the fire department. We have a motion to approve training costs for the fire department for the firefighter rapid intervention training to be conducted through coordination with the Rhode Island Fire Academy in the amount of $18,298.50.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion from the council?
Just the funding is through a grant, right? Is that correct? Grant program?
Correct on that one.
Yeah. So,
Madam President, open forum.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. All right, we'll just, we'll go
wanna
back.
do that vote or
We'll get
wait?
back to the, we'll take a vote. Is anyone from the public wishing to speak on this agenda item for the fire department agenda item? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all
Aye.
opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Open forum public comment. Again, the comments of citizens addressing the council are neither adopted nor endorsed by the body, but heard as requested. Public comment will not be taken on matters involving open litigation. And for the rules, we have a sign-in sheet to speak in the back of the chambers. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address and speak only on topics not on the meeting agenda. And there's a 3-minute time limit per speaker / subject matter. And again, please be orderly and respectful.
There is no one signed on the sheet.
Okay, nobody signed up. Does anybody wish to speak? Anyone, just raise your hand. Okay. I don't see any hands up, so we'll move back to the regular agenda. So from the Parks and Recreation Department, we have a motion to award the bid for paddle sports business concession to the highest bidder, Narrow River Kayaks LLC, with payments to the town of $24,000 year one, $28,000 year two, and $32,000 year three, for a total payment to the town of $84,000 over a 3-year period.
So moved.
second.
Okay, any discussion from the council?
I just have one question I had asked the town manager today as far as parking on the opposite side of the concession. Do we know how many parking spots are available there?
I don't right now. We have to see how many people are authorized to park there with the marina or whatnot. We didn't have time to look in.
Okay.
Didn't have time to look into that today.
Right, fair enough.
I have a question.
Councilor Brandy?
Jim, can that refresh my memory? I think, did this go out with any minimum bid or no?
It did. Technically, neither of respondents met the minimum bid of the
Okay.
RFP, and in the interest of transparency, we're just giving to the council to let them know that that is the case. Neither one of them met the minimum requirement.
Were the minimums the same as what we put in what the council had in last year?
32,000.
I thank you.
I'll just clarify just for members of the public. So this is a bid for paddle sports business at 95 Middlebridge Road from April 1 to October 31 of each year, with a minimum amounts for vendors to pay the town for an initial 3-year period. There is a possible 2-year extension with this contract. So just for background, request for bids was advertised in the Narragansett Times, solicited and posted on the town of Narragansett and the state purchasing division websites. 6 vendors were solicited and 2 responded. In the packet, there's an attached spreadsheet that lists the results from the solicitation, annual payments to the town. So Narrow River Kayaks LLC proposed the highest payment to the town over the 3-year contract. And as noted, neither respondent met the minimum bid requirement of $32,000 with the with the exception of Narrow River Kayaks LLC in year 3. So that's just the $32,000 in year 3 on that one. It is the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Department to award the bid to the highest bidder, Narrow River Kayaks LLC. The funding source, it's a revenue-producing contract with no cost to the town. Revenue from this contract will be posted to the Middlebridge revenue account, concessions. And last year, we did not accept any bids, so it's been being utilized as open space. So currently, right now and last year, there was no kayak rental business concessions on that property. Any other comments from the council?
Well, I'd like to say that I think that this is a good idea for a number of reasons, not the least of which is we don't have to, expend any time, money, or energy on maintaining the space, even, just to allow people to use that space, for one thing. The second, and probably more important thing, is that I know I received a lot of emails from a number of people who were really sorry to see the kayak center leave. I'm sorry, the Narrow River kayaks leave that area last year. So I think it's a great idea, and we should go forward with it.
So to add on to Deb's remarks, yes, we did receive, but we also received some feedback last year that people enjoyed the open space and they could go on at no cost, which is why I had asked Mr. Tierney today if we could find out how many parking spaces are across. If you take a look at the RFP, it's specific to the side where the kayak operation is, and then it says that there'll be some parking across the street, but it doesn't give the amount of parking spots. So what I'd like to propose for us to take a look at as a way to offer some free spaces that would be town-owned spaces. We'd take a look at how many spots are across the street, how many are actually belonging to the marina operation, how many are belonging to the URI women's rowing team, and then what remainder is left. And rather than having Narrow River Kayak have all of that parking, take some of those spots and offer it for public parking at no cost for them, so that the town residents or anybody who's coming here can have the opportunity to enjoy the free space that they wrote to us that they enjoyed last year. So a little bit of a compromise.
Any other council members wishing to comment? Anyone from the public? Okay, seeing none. I did get a lot of feedback and comments that people did enjoy it as open space. Last year, we had decided to see what happened with that open space, and I know that there was a lot of individuals who did enjoy being able to go there and enjoy it, and there's not a lot of open space available in town like that. So, and then the minimum bid requirement was not met on this, so personally, I'm happy just leaving it open space, but I'll defer to the council members for the vote. So if no one has any further comments, you can just take the vote.
Oh, can I just, as a kayaker, there are lots of places to put boats in the greater Narragansett area. There's also a boat put in on the other side of the river that I've used myself several times. So I think, it's not that there's no place to put kayaks in on the Narrow River, and there's also all that space around the Sprague Bridge. So just there's plenty. There are places. Just make that point.
So, Attorney Davis, if we were to approve this tonight, could we then add in, if the council agrees, add in that there'll be some space designated for anyone who wants to enjoy that it's not going to be overseen by the Narrow River Kayak?
Well, to the extent the contract specifies specific parking.
Which it doesn't.
So the contract could be drafted to
Okay.
And so
allocate a certain number of spaces, and then, of course, whatever's left, as you mentioned, we have leases to URI, the marina. You can sort that out. Okay. But whatever is in the contract would be dedicated to that enterprise.
We could, if we approve this tonight, we could then add that language in, that we could add some space in for public use that is not
fine.
being managed by Narrow River.
Well, you could approve it, you can approve it based on a mutually acceptable contract, which would set forth parking.
Okay.
So I just want to be clear, because, so for tonight, the motion in front of us, since the parking isn't really cleared up, can we vote one way or another for this, and then that will come back to us as another motion about the parking, where we stand on it?
I think you can approve it based on this monetary amount and subject to mutually acceptable terms, and if we can, working with you and the company, come to an agreement on parking, then that would put the issue to bed. But you can absolutely grant it, subject to reaching a definitive agreement on the other terms.
I'm just not sure we're all going to agree on the parking, so I'm a little concerned about that, doing it after. So if it comes back for a vote, then that would be clear to me where we stand with the parking. I don't know if we can work it out outside of that, so I'd feel more comfortable either voting for this or not on the paddle, the business, and then be clear on the parking and really want to understand. I want the public to hear it too.
Yeah, it's a fair point. So if you can come up with something tonight that is absolute with regard to parking, for example, one side of that property where the business is run out of, if that's a given and that's acceptable to the party contracting with the town, then to the extent there's additional parking on the other side can be handled at a later time. But you're right, Sue. If you approve it and it's subject to a mutually agreeable contract, the town ultimately has to agree to those terms. So you do have to kind of address it.
Because I was thinking maybe a minimum, like 5 spots on the other side that we could have open for the town. I don't know, Eva, if the applicant's here, I don't know if it would be appropriate if we could ask, would he consider entering in that type of agreement, Mark? Would that be appropriate, or?
I don't know if it'd be fair to ask him to do that.
I mean,
at
no,
this
just
point.
if he would consider it, is all I'm saying. I mean, because I understand what Eva was saying, that the dollar amount wasn't what we were asking for, but people do enjoy his kayak operation there.
I don't recall honestly, I don't recall the specific terms of the prior contract. Did it
Okay.
spell out parking specifically? I don't recall.
I don't know that, I think that it had traditionally been that side of the street was also used for parking for it, but that's why I asked for the RFP today, and there's no language in it. I
So
don't
if
have
there's,
the
I mean, if
contract.
it's non-exclusive use, then it's like first come, first served type of thing.
There's also the option to continue to the next meeting. Answer any questions and finalize anything.
Or again, could we vote for or not for the kayak business, and then we can come back and have a clear conversation about the lots?
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
That's fine. I think that's good.
Well,
So do
maybe
we
the
need to make an
appropriate thing to
amendment?
do is if you're going to vote to do that, then maybe we can draft a contract, get it going back and forth, and then when it comes back, you'll have a contract to actually
Right,
review and
so
approve.
then we would be able to, so either way, we're going to have to see it at the next meeting anyway, so we
Right.
could just continue it with the appropriate wording and contract.
You can go either way.
Or could we do it contingent upon working out the parking too? I
Yeah.
mean, is that?
Yeah, I think you
just
can
to
do it
settle
contingent
this
upon a
part.
mutually agreeable contract.
I'm good with that.
So
Fine
just
with
to
that.
amend it, to amend
Yeah.
the language, right? So motion to award the bid for paddle sports business concession to the highest bidder, Narrow River Kayaks LLC, with payments to the town of $24,000 year 1, $28,000 year 2, and $32,000 year 3, for a total payment to the town of $84,000 over a 3-year period, contingent on parking agreement. Is that good enough? Or
It should be contingent on
Parking.
mutually agreeable terms and conditions, including parking.
all right, contingent on mutually agreeable
Terms
terms,
and conditions, including parking.
including parking. Sarah, you got that? Okay. So do you want to make the motion just as
Just so move it.
so moved? Okay.
A sec? Eva?
Yep. So second. So
Second. Did you say, did you move it?
I moved it, yes.
okay, Lawler, Kopeck. Okay. All in favor as motion as amended?
Aye.
Aye. All, motion as amended, I'm going to say no. So motion passes 4-1. Going back to the main motion as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No. Motion passes 4-1.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving to the next agenda item, we have a motion to approve a one-year seasonal contract with Newport Creamery to vend from a food truck at the town beach on Monday and Wednesday nights, only in the north lot from the third Monday of June through Labor Day from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second?
I just have a question.
Hold on a second, please. Motion by Councilor Lara, second by Councilor Kopech. Councilor Cicilline Bonanno.
The question's for Michelle, but Jim, is this, is somebody not coming back and they're adding Newport
Yeah.
Creamery, or is it just in addition to?
Yes, it's in
The cupcakery is not coming back.
Who's not coming back?
It's in the packet.
The
Say it
cup-
again?
The cupcakery.
Okay,
Cupcakery, that one
I
isn't
forgot.
coming back.
I forgot. I'm almost 62. Thank you.
Your child, dear.
I got to take my
Any
kid
other
to-
comments from the council? Any questions or comments? Any
I'm excited
discussion?
about the Newport Creamery.
Me too.
Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to approve the contract extension for the rental of tents for Canachet North Beach Clubhouse and Kinney Bungalow with Pranzi Tents and Events at their quoted bid prices for a one-year period ending May 29th, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council?
I have a question.
Yes,
Eva.
Councilor Ferranti.
This is for the Canachet tent. And Jim, I don't know if you know, or maybe Michelle could answer if it's possible, but there was an issue with the tent being left up in a storm at one point that did some damage to the outside of that building. So is there anything in the contract that, guarantees this tent company takes it down or anything like that, any kind of a tie within that? So it would, maybe we would, I think it was an emergency, maybe it was one of the hurricanes, but it was left up, I know, and some damage was done, and then that's the reason I think we wanted to, put a whole new overhang and everything on there. So is there anything in the contract itself that would, tie this company to taking it down somehow in a penalty if they didn't in a certain time?
I'm not sure that exact language is in there, but it's something we could actually work in.
Yeah, that way, we won't do any more damage. We learn our lesson once it gets, I know we had significant damage to it, so maybe that's something that they could talk to the tent company. I don't know if a Parks and Recreation Department person could, be paid to take it down, or as part of the rental, or, I know they're.
No, that's very specific.
It's at night and all, but.
Insurance.
So, yeah, if that can be into the contract, maybe that'll just prevent it from next time, if it does,
Okay,
happens.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, from the Public Works Department, we have a motion to waive the current policy and authorize the use of the miscellaneous repair and construction services contract with George Sherman Sand and Gravel Company Incorporated to complete drainage improvements to the existing 12-inch storm drain on Bristol Road for $95,000.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to approve the filling of a vacant truck driver position within the Highway Division of the Public Works Department and any subsequent vacancies that will arise from the filling of this position.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have a motion to accept a grant from the Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources, OER, Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program in the amount of $33,455.62, and to authorize the town manager to sign the memorandum of understanding with OER, subject to review by the town solicitor.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public?
Could I just ask one question?
Sure.
Jim, so this is funding that's going to help with the replacement of windows, et cetera, in the town hall, right? That's what this was for?
That's correct.
And we had originally, didn't we authorize funding for that in the past?
It'd be another component of the the reconstruction of the facade, which is with some of the opera funding.
Yeah.
This is specific for the energy efficiency, that the windows, the doors,
I guess my point was, are we going to save a little money as a result of this?
yes.
Thank you.
Any discussion from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next, from the Community Development Department, we have a motion to receive, accept, and place on file the strategy for reducing risks from natural hazards in Narragansett, Rhode Island, also known as the Hazard Mitigation Plan.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? Okay. Gentleman's here from there. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, from the Engineering Department, we have a motion to approve the contract for SCADA computer alarming and notification software with Electrical Installations Incorporated in the amount of $24,425, water $12,215.50, wastewater $12,215.50 at their quoted hourly rates.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next, from the Finance Department, we have a motion to read, pass, and adopt as a second reading for an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinance of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Taxation and Finance, specifically Section 70-4, entitled Compliance with State Law.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Next, from the town clerk, we have a motion to approve a victualler license application for a Taste of Time Incorporated, 140 Point Judith Road, Unit 38C, Narragansett, Rhode Island, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, seconded by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. We're getting close to we have a minute to go before the public hearing, so I'm just going to stop there with the regular agenda items. So we will get back to those after our public hearing. So I would like to, actually it's 7:29. It's close to, hold on. We'll give it one more minute so we're precise.
Mr. Castadine, your motion's approved, so you're welcome to stay, but you're not required to, just so you know.
Okay. Okay, the time is now 7:30, so we will be moving on to our public hearing portion of the meeting. So I have a motion to open and hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Would you like to come up? We'll have our finance director present.
We take the vote, Council President?
Oh, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0.
The information that's presented this evening for the first public hearing was garnered from multiple meetings with senior management team and staff, and Christine and myself and other department heads over several months. This is the posted budget that was advertised, and as everyone knows at home and here, that this is all subject to change upon council review and input. And so without much further ado, I'd like to introduce Christine Wilson, our finance director.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you and good evening, Council President Drzezinski and council members and community participants. As the town manager stated, we're going to be presenting the proposed 24-25 budget. This budget will focus primarily on the general fund because that's funded with taxpayer dollars. The other funds, such as water, wastewater, rental registration, those will be discussed during the work sessions next week. I'd like to start with what's notable in the budget. As of 6/30/23, the fund balance, unassigned fund balance, is at 19.9%. That's over $13 million. Right now, the tax levy in the budget is at a 4% maximum, but due to the increased values of homes, it's resulting in a 26.5% decrease in the tax rate. In this budget, the use of unassigned fund balance reserve is at $1.9 million, and that's due to the increase in personnel costs, insurance, debt service, utilities, et cetera. In 2024, the current year, we had $2.2 million assigned of fund balance to bring the balance into budget into balance. And in 2023, we had $2.5 million budgeted for unassigned fund balance, but only used $245,267. Both the pension funds and the OPEB, Oh, Dan's helping me out. I forgot. Wait a minute, stop. Okay. Both pensions and the OPEB funds are funded at 100% this year. It's recommended that we fund the 8 SAFER firefighters for the balance of the 5 months of the grant, SAFER grant. That's approximately $425,000. There's a small increase in legal services, a small increase in the transfer to the library. They requested a little bit more this year. Okay. This just shows you the growth of the general fund budget year over year from 2021 to 2025 and how it keeps growing. The next slide gives you the pie chart, how 40% is the school transfer. There's 37% in salaries and benefits for the town, 15% in other transfers, leaving under 10% for everything else, supplies, materials, utilities, et cetera. So that's really not a lot of fluff in this budget. The next is the capital projects. This year, it's down to $2,061,450 for the general fund. Overall, though, it's gone up with the enterprise funds are requesting more. The impact on taxes, the proposed tax rate for residential property is at about $6.84 per thousand, and the commercial and tangible rates is proposed at $9.24. The 23-24 rates are $9.31 and $12.57 per thousand. And like I said before, the decrease in the tax rate is due to the revals and, of course, the 4% maximum increase to the tax levy. The tax levy increase, it brings in about an additional $2,322,839. Things to consider is that the state aid and the reimbursements are still projected. I don't have final numbers yet. The town manager met with staff, and he reduced the capital improvement plan budget to $2,014,450 from the department's requests of $4,409,450 for a reduction of almost $2.4 million. The school department requested 2.74% increase, which is $767,471. Again, as I stated, we're maintaining the 8 safer firefighters for the balance of the grant period. There's a request for 2 additional FTEs. One position is for GIS specialist in IT, and building inspection is requesting another position for the zoning enforcement. There's also another consideration for the potential need for an additional tax assessor FTE should the tax structure changes take effect next year. Currently, that position is not budgeted. There's additional requests in special appropriations in the amount of $10,444,000, and the increase in contingency, it's an additional $300,000. So normally it's $300,000, it's requesting $600,000. That's still under 1% of the total budget. As I stated last year, in fiscal year 32-33, we're at about $1 million requirement for the pension fund actuarial determined contributions. So we have to plan for that huge increase. In 33 and 34, there's going to be a substantial reduction in debt service, all things equal, right now. There's the discussion of the tax classification, which needs to be discussed and considered. And there's also a potential phase out of the tangible taxes to some degree over the next several years. Whoops. This is my budget forecast, revenue, and expenses. So you can see at the top that percent levy increase and how the required use of fund balance continues to grow, all things equal. You can see at 2028, we're looking at about $6.7 million requirement for fund balance, which we don't have right now. And then 4% increase in the levy over the next few years. You see it goes down to $884,000 in 2028, which maybe at that point it could start reducing tax rate increases. That's all things equal. You can't predict the future, but right now that's what it looks like. Oh, and this is, yep, based on those calculations for revenue and expenditures. We're looking, again, at with the 2% tax levy increase. You can see the tax rate, how they change, but you'll see the fiscal impact where we go, we're to the negative of $3.8 million. And if you see the 4% tax increase, levy increase, you see the tax rates, and we're a positive $1.1 million with the continued growth. So what's next is the town council work sessions next week are proposed for April 9th, 10th, and 11th. We have a second public hearing scheduled for May 6th. The adoption of the capital improvement plan is scheduled for May 20th. The first reading of the budget ordinance is scheduled for May 20th, and the second reading and adoption is scheduled for June 3rd. And that's it. Questions?
Any council members have any questions or discussion on the budget?
Chris, are you recommending a specific tax levy for this period at the 4%?
The town managers, yeah, 4%.
Okay, and the other question that I have is that we didn't use the funding that we had taken out of I never get the language right.
Unassigned fund balance?
Yeah, the unassigned fund balance. We only used like 10% of what we had set. So, and I understand why you would put, another $2.5 million in this time around, but I mean, I don't remember how in 4 years, how many times we put money in from the unassigned balance and ended up not using it. I don't remember what the history of that is, but if that's the case.
Well, you need it to balance the budget, and you know,
Right,
have
you don't know what's
trans-
going to happen, right?
We don't
I
know what's
get
going to
that.
happen.
I get that.
Personnel, staffing, people change benefits, that's a huge expense as it is, you know.
Right. But that's also the reason why our unassigned, I mean, if I remember correctly, our unassigned fund balance at the end of the last budget season was around $11 million. And this is, you just kind of put the money back in there, right?
Right, it goes back in,
Yeah.
and we've had some released because the library did pay off their
Right.
advance, so that was released
Right.
back into the unassigned fund balance.
Right. So that's actually pretty healthy unassigned fund balance. right?
Yes,
Yeah.
our range is 10 to 16% by ordinance,
Okay.
resolution.
Okay, and I don't know if this is useful, but just to maybe make sure people understand the difference between a tax levy and a tax, whatever the other one, I'm sorry, I keep losing the names. You know, in other words, the levy is some part of 4% or 4%, right? That's what we
Right,
put,
that's the
we do
revenue
annually.
brought in by the taxes based on the tax rate.
Right, and the tax rate is reduced because we have higher assessments on our housing, and, you know, that still won't be exact, I mean, the dollars should be still higher in terms of what we're putting into the fund, so I guess one of the things we have to talk about next week is the 4%, whether we really need to go all the way to 4%, so you get ready, so we can have that conversation. So,
No,
thank
it all
you.
depends what you want to do in the future, too, you know.
Right, absolutely, and I know there are things that are coming up in the future that we have to deal with, you know, that we have to be,
Right.
yeah, you've said this before many times, we have to, you know, we have to deal with it as we go along so that we don't have to deal with it at the end. And I totally agree with that, so that's really good. This is a great presentation, by the way, and I want to thank you for that. You get better and better every year.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. And I like the small books, too. I haven't even really looked at them yet, but the smaller the better.
Try to keep more organization.
Yeah, you do. And, you know, I mean, if we go back to 4 years ago and now, it's pretty cool.
I know, actually, I appreciate that as well. I picked them up, and I didn't think I had them all. They were so thin and nicely done.
Thanks, thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
I have a question,
Yep,
Chris.
Councilor Ferrandi.
Can you go back to the budget forecast, revenue and expense? I don't know what slide it is, 11, page 11? Couple, oh. Is that it? Yeah, okay. So I'm just trying to understand the, so at a 4% levy increase, which is this, you know, that's the state maximum, you can increase the budget, I believe, correct?
Correct.
So it goes through each year. So if we were to maintain a 4% tax increase for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, the fifth year, we wouldn't have to take anything from the unassigned fund balance, the minus $884,000?
That'd be, yeah, all things equal, in 2028, that would be the required use of unassigned fund balance to balance the budget. All things equal. And so
So, yeah,
instead of
so
2 million,
2.2, right. So
1.9, it goes
Yeah,
down.
you're adding 4% every year to the budget, so it drastically comes down at the 2%. All the way over to the right, you'd need $6,711,000.
Yeah.
Why does that expense jump up so fast at the end of 5 years? Like contractual agreements, or is there an
Well,
estimate?
everything goes up more than 2% a year. So all your increases, wages, they go up, benefits are going up more than 2% a year, utilities are going up more than 2% a year, gas is going up more than 2% a year, everything is going up more than 2% a year.
Right.
So if you just keep going up 2%, you're going in the negative. You're not keeping up with the economy.
Yeah, as it stands now, I mean.
As it
the way-
stands
the way
now,
it's raised.
right.
Okay, right.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on the budget? Dr. Alba.
Steep increase, 4% every year.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, Dr. Al, A-L. Last name is Alba, A-L-B-A. So I have a couple of questions. I know teachers and state employees I believe even probably the educators in the state of in Narragansett, many of us, as a result of the Gina Raimondo pension reform deal, we are now, the defined pension plans are like a thing in the past. And I was wondering the status in regards to our town and our town employees. Now, obviously, I don't agree what Gina did in regards to changing the pension program for state employees who are already vested. And I wouldn't want the town of Narragansett to do that as well. But I was just thinking, going forward, the defined pension plans are very, even in private industry in this day and age, they've adapted now having people go into a 401k where the corporations or the cities and towns match a certain percentage. Can you please let us know what the status is on the pension programs for our town
Dr.
employees?
Alba, could you please address the council?
Yes.
Not the staff, thank you.
Okay, the reason why I was addressing her is because it's a pension-related question, so I figured she might have the answer to that, and the town council would not. But if they have the answer, if they know the answer to that, they can address that.
It's not question and answer, they're in a public hearing, so.
Okay, it's not a question and answer session? Okay, well, the thing is, we're looking at examining the proposed budget, and we're all concerned about costs and saving monies. And another question is, obviously, with the short-term rental ordinances and these other ordinances, if we're going to have, as Councilwoman Bonanno brought out, if we're going to have to hire people to basically regulate this and make sure that it's being imposed, et cetera, the cost burden for that would also have to be considered. But thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one out there, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopech. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, back to the regular agenda items. We have, from the town clerk's office, we have a motion to approve a miscellaneous license application for hotel motel license for Marguerite Salvatore, owner and applicant for West Bay Apartments and Cottages, 1084 Boston Neck Road, Plat NA, Lot 52, Narragansett, Rhode Island, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion from the council?
I have a question. I'm reading the background information, and it says, I guess this application was filed on time, but we're waiting to require all the documentation and the inspections completed. It's now in compliance. Is this a new hotel application for hotel or motel, or does it have to go to the zoning or the planning board, or is this like something that they did have this license one time and it lapsed, and now they're trying to get it back?
Correct. So the last active hotel motel license at this location was in 2019-2020 license year. They paused for a bit. They're doing a long-term rentals through the Narragansett Housing Authority for people who would have been otherwise homeless.
Right.
They want to get their motel license back in case, so they have it in the event that they would like to rent the rooms as a hotel again. So they've already previously had this, it's just getting back to where they were before.
Initially, when they got the hotel license, I don't know when, maybe it's a while back, did they have to go through planning and zoning to get that license, depending on, if it's an R10 or whatever it is? I'm not sure what zone it is. I just want to make sure, that if it lapsed, did it, does it have to go through zoning again, or can the application just be redone as what they had? And are they using it actively as a hotel? When's the last time it was used actively as a hotel.
That
you know.
I know of, 2019,
Oh,
2020.
2019, so they had rooms in a hotel.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So it's just basically re-upping the application, so to
Exactly.
speak? Okay. And it's all ready to go. All right, thanks, Sarah.
Thanks. Any other council members wishing to comment? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by Councilor Kopek. Motion passes 5-0. Lastly, from the Town Council, we have a motion to pass a resolution requesting the General Assembly approval of legislation for the issuance of $3 million bonds for affordable housing in the town of Narragansett.
So moved.
Second?
This is coming from Councilor Sicilian Bonanno.
Yep. So before you have the resolution that we want to send to the General Assembly asking for the $3 million bond to go on the ballot for November. So tonight, it's not whether you agree or disagree with the affordable housing bond, it's do you want it to go to the public and have the public decide. The Affordable Housing Collaborative has worked really hard to come up with ideas to fund the trust, and we could talk about it during budget season, maybe put some money into the trust, but the group decided that we met with the bondsman, that we could start with a small amount of money for $3 million if the council supports the resolution and the General Assembly supports it. We could have the $3 million. It could be used for acquiring land. It could be used for infill lots, additional parcels. It could be used for first-time homeowners to help with rehabilitation for people to stay in their homes. So there's a lot of good possibilities for this bond that will help affordable housing in the town of Narragansett. And so I know that you all believe in it. I've heard you all say it. And so tonight is to take action to put it before the General Assembly so that it can come to the voters of Narragansett to ultimately decide. So I'd encourage you to think about it. We're looking at ways to bring the workforce back, police, firemen, nurses, people that need housing, teachers. And so by having that $3 million could give us the opportunity for grants, for nonprofits, for housing, and just to bring your attention to the housing crisis across this country, we need to start to do something sooner than later. So I hope tonight you will let the voters of this town ultimately decide to send it up to the General Assembly to get on the ballot. I see some affordable housing members here too, and maybe they'll be speaking on the bond as well. But I want you to know, Christine, the finance director, was in the meeting. The bondsman's been in the meeting. There's been support for this debt to be taken on by the bonds. So I just want been vetted.
Thank you. Any other council members wishing to any discussion? Council Lawler.
I do have a lot of questions on this, Susan. So the finance director was involved in discussion, so what is her recommendation on the bond level? I'm for this, but I don't have enough information right now. So was she involved in the discussion? You met with the bond council? Because when this agenda item came out last week, it was the first time I learned about a bond being put on the ballot.
Okay. So we had an affordable housing meeting, and the bondsman was there, and Christine was there, the director, and heard the conversation about the bond. And so they were in agreement with it. David Ferrara helped as far as the bonds, the resolution, and the Bond Act. We were worried that we couldn't take on the debt, but for this coming year, but it's for the next year, so we can. So,
Mr. Tierney, has the finance director said, and the bond attorney, Mr. Ferrara, said that the town can handle this debt? From what I just saw, I'm a little concerned. I know we just increased the tax levy.
The bond counsel did not say to me that everything's fine. There's still some questions.
Okay.
If you allow me to excuse myself for a couple of minutes, I would like to go find something and bring it back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have more questions? questions or?
I don't know what he's coming back with,
I
so.
don't either. Any other questions from the council?
Well, I think I'd like to wait for the town manager, because I do have some, and I'm sure everybody else does as well.
We'll just give it a minute. I think I wasn't expecting him to. Okay. While we wait for our town manager to come back, if anyone from the public wishes to speak on this topic, please let me know. Raise your hand. Mr. Menke.
Eric Menke, 2 Castle Street, Narragansett. I've lived in town for 40 years. Heard a lot of talk about, the rising costs for young families and such. And I would definitely urge the council to consider passing the resolution for this affordable housing bond and let the public decide if that's something they want to do.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards?
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, honorable members of the council. Nick Edwards, 36 Crest Avenue, Narragansett. I'm also the chair of the Narragansett Affordable Housing Collaborative Trust. I think first things first, we're not here tonight asking you for $3 million. We're simply asking for a town council resolution in support. So this can go to the General Assembly, let the General Assembly decide, and ultimately let the people, the voters of this town, decide. Like Councilwoman Cicilline Bonanno said, this will allow us to acquire land, create programs, and ultimately, I think address the ultimate goal here, which is to solve, or at least fix, some of the housing crisis here in Narragansett. And I think the bottom line is we all agree we want to have families in town year-round. Again, as we've mentioned, the committee is in full support of this. We've discussed this in committee with our invited guests, Christine Wilson and also Dave Ferrara, the bondsman, both in committee, expressed no issue with this. I am a little curious, to be honest with you, what Mr. Tierney's going to come back with, but anyway, we'll see when he's back. But I think, if not now, when? We're in a statewide election year. It's 2024. It's a presidential election year. Are we going to wait 2 years to get this on the ballot again? I just think that, now is the time to, let the people decide. Again, we're not here to ask you for $3 million at this time. All we're asking is for a town council resolution in support of this so the members of the General Assembly can make a determination on this, then ultimately let the people of this town, the 10,000 plus, even more so voters in this town, decide on this important issue that I think we all know is a big one. We all feel that this needs to change. We want to keep families in the town. We want to see our small businesses thrive, and, solving the housing crisis is going to do this. So, again, if not now, when? We've been appointed to work. We've been working hard for 3 years on the Affordable Housing Collaborative Trust. I just think that without this bond, without this going to the people to decide, we're going to have an uphill battle here. I mean, we've been appointed to this. We're working, doing all we can. We don't have a lot of support, but we really, really hope tonight that you can pass this resolution in support and let the people of Narragansett decide this important issue. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Johnson. Oh,
It's Tyler.
oh, Tyler. I'm sorry?
I just have to confer with council to see what I can state.
Okay. All right. Oh, Cliff, I'm sorry.
Cliff Tyler, 30 Lambert Street, Narragansett. I'm the Vice Chair of the Affordable Housing Collaborative Trust. Here tonight just to voice my support in the approval of the aforementioned business here and to let the taxpayers of the town of Narragansett, give them the opportunity to make this decision. That's really all I have to say. Mr. Edwards before me said it more eloquently than I did, covered all the bases. So I fully support what Nick had to say, but also, again, encourage the council to move forward with this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Catanzaro, Atlantic Ave, Narragansett. As well, what I'd like to those is it's kind of convenient that Christine just gave us a 5-year budget. I'd love to see the impact of the town borrowing $3 million on that budget to see what it does to the levies and the tax rates and everything else. And to put that as well in front of the town voters when we put it on the ballot. I think people need to understand when they say, yeah, I want to spend $3 million, what does it mean? So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alba.
Yes. Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I think if we do the percentage, I think it'll be relatively an insignificant amount. I mean, you could just do a percentage, Ron, and see that the impact would probably be negligible. And I would like to say, we all started with humble beginnings. My dad was a barber. I grew up in a 3-story tenement. In fact, Judge Caprio, he lived in a 3-story tenement too. And the reason why I know that is because he jointly did a YouTube video with the Alba family, my aunt, Eleanor. It's on YouTube. It's got like 25,000 hits. But in any event, we start with humble beginnings. We have a lot of people who, might be even, individuals who are so valuable to our community. The barbers, the hairstylists, the people who give so much of their lives, and we need to give an opportunity for these people to live here. And I always believed in inclusivity and not exclusivity. And we need to, like I said, open our doors to those people who are, they might not be the doctors, the lawyers, even the teachers, the educators, or the nurses, but they're just as valuable to our community. Their kids are just as valuable. And a lot of changes, and we were saying we have to have more families in here. And now the town council implemented from a 4-student to 3 students in the rentals because because we want to try to have more families. And we're making more restrictions on short-term rentals. We have too many rentals, they're saying. We have to have more families. So if we need to have more families, then our town council, we have to really approve that this goes on. And I think I want to applaud Susan for having this done diplomatically, democracy, and it's democracy in action. So we're all going to be able to vote, and I will hope and pray that this here does get approved to go on the ballot so all of us can vote for this very important issue, and I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Mr. Tierney.
There have been, several emails going back and forth, both on this and the proposed, or potentially proposed revisions to the Affordable Trust Collaborative. But back Thursday, the 28th of March, it cited that at the meeting, most certainly, Chris, meaning Finance Director Wilson, reserved judgment on how annual payment of this bond would fit into the budget. Also, it isn't currently budgeted now, so just to make sure the council understands that. And I spoke to the solicitor just now, and although we have lots of comments going back and forth on it, we really don't have a written opinion on how it would be implemented and the legality of it. So I just culled these just from a few emails. Some, obviously, if it's attorney-client privilege, I can't get into it, but there are a few things I did want to address that Chris definitely reserved judgment on how the annual payments of this bond would fit into the budget.
Do you want to go back to your?
Sure. So thank you for that. I have a couple other questions on it, but maybe I'll just, the town of Jamestown recently had the same thing brought up from their Affordable Housing Collaborative to the town council. And when it got to the town council, the town, I think it's called administrator over there, looked at the $3 million bond and asked bond counsel and the town manager, can we afford, they're the same as us. They're going up with a 4% maximum increase for tax levy allowed. And their conclusion was that they right now can't handle it financially. So I think that although I am in agreement that I would love to be able to do something with affordable housing, we just don't know what the impact would be for the town. So what I'm going to suggest is that maybe we have these questions answered. We have our finance director speak with the town manager. They answer these questions. Maybe we can have a public hearing. We can have some type of information to get out to the town. So I agree with Ron. We want to have the town informed of the impact, the financial impact of this. We can't just say we've been talking about it, if not now, when, because everybody wants it. But what does it mean for the town as far as financing? We just had to look at potentially having a 4% increase over the next several years. But what would this mean? What would it mean to the current road bond that we have right now? How would this impact the bond we have right now with the library? I think there are a lot of questions out there, Susan, so I applaud you wanting to get this out there and to get it done, but I just think that we need to understand what it is we are voting for before we put it to a question on a ballot. And to have the town be understanding more of what this means financially, I think would be an important thing.
Mr. Friday.
Good evening, Rupert Friday, 113 Montauk Road. I think the bond is a good idea, and I come at it from the experience of working with municipal land trusts. There's 19 municipal land trusts in Rhode Island, and many of them have worked with their towns to adopt local bonds for land conservation. And what it does, it gives the town the ability to have revenue to match state and federal grant programs, so more competitive in those programs when we have a project. It lets the town take advantage of opportunities that arise, make projects happen if it's approved by the voters. And the referendum gives the voters the ability to make the decision. I can tell you, based on what I've seen with land conservation bonds, the amount of impact on the town's budget will be pretty small, as Dr. Alba had mentioned. And I know that the issue about delay is that it has to get approved by the General Assembly. So you can only do it on an even year. So you can only do it every 2 years. So if we don't do it this year, it takes 2 years to be able to bring it up again. And the Crane report on affordable housing, one of the 8 recommendations was to fund the trust fund. And the trust fund's been on the books for over a decade, I think now. It's never been funded. I think it's important to fund it. I think this is an opportunity to do that. I think it gives the town a lot of flexibility in looking at projects, making projects happen. It doesn't, it just gets on the ballot if the General Assembly puts it on the ballot and then lets the voters approve. The town council ends up making the approval decisions on the expenditure of funds once it's approved. So it's not going down a rabbit hole of spending money that we don't have. So I really encourage you to support this, getting this referendum on the ballot.
Mr. Durkin.
Hi, James Durkin, 375 Ocean Road, Narragansett. I wasn't coming here tonight to speak about this. I didn't even think I would need to. I think it's something that is, it's just, you know, it should be unanimous, it should be not questioned, but I do agree it should be talked about and spelled out to the voters prior to it going on the ballot. But I think you should move it along tonight. I think it's, you know, a reasonable amount of money for our town to put towards helping the situation that we've talked about so much. I read in the paper that a comment was made on the council that, you know, summer rentals or short-term rentals, an ordinance was moved and passed the first time it was heard, and the details would be worked out along the way. I think any of the details that could be worked out on this would be, you know, well thought out and would be good for the people of our town. People, young people that need places to live, and not just families, but single people. I think a perfect example of like what the town council did, and I'm not trying to, I just remember being on the town council 15 years or 20 years ago, I don't even remember the dates, but we bought Camp Jury, and I don't think we had to go to the electorate for that. I thought we bought it, maybe we paid half and then half the next year or something, but we bought it, and one of it, you know, part of it, everybody knows what's happened there, and that's a really good example of the town collaborating with the town's affordable housing department to build housing. It's worked out really nice. It's pretty, nobody complains about it, and half of the property is used for recreation, you know? So they need that money. I've gone to these meetings. I've been asked to go to cooperate in housing ourselves, and they need this money to be able to go to the next step. They're working really hard to try to solve the problem. So it would be good if you guys could just move it along somehow. Thanks.
Thanks. Mr. Hames.
Hi, Wayne Hames, 30 Wood Avenue. I would like to see you move this along tonight as well. After everything that this council have done, I could say under the guise of, but trying to create affordable housing in this, or bringing families back into this town with zone changes, street signs, flag signs, I don't know, everything else that's been done. This is one thing that could be put to the voters, and they're not going to, it's to approve it, doesn't mean you spend the money right away. You don't get taxed on it until the money is spent. It might take a year, it might take more to find suitable property to use this on. So the person who said, how does it affect the tax? I don't think it'll affect the tax rate at all until the money is used. But this should be put to the voters and see if we can create some affordable housing within this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Sir.
David Cronley, Harbor Island Road. I grew up in town here, and I support this greatly because what I've seen, and I retired recently, there's an erosion of young people in our town. Like the school systems don't have as many students. We're going backwards to when I was a kid, when there were very few people here. And when I was growing up, there was much more diversity, not just of color, but of economic diversity. The town's turned into a big yuppie, upper middle class, retired people and wealthy people, and that really, I don't know that that is what the town really wants. And it would be wonderful if more people that aren't of means can afford to live here. And I don't think it's students of the University of Rhode Island are the problem whatsoever. I've been here since 1962 and lived here continuously. And certainly there are student problems, but I don't think that's the problem. This housing problem is from the students. I think it's just the way things have worked out from the property values and what rentals end up having to be charged. And it concerns me that the school systems are losing enrollment and families obviously can't afford to be here. And any kind of way that it can be helped, I think is an important step for the council to take. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else from the council?
I have a couple of things I wanted to say. I also think this is a very good idea. I think about, how we deal with bonds in this town. I don't know what the length of this bond would be, but I assume it would be several years. And $3 million over several years is not that much. But I think the other point is not. I mean, we can get the math, but I don't think it's hugely important here. What I do think is that the money is not going to be spent until we have a need for it. At the same time, it offers us the opportunity to get significant grants, et cetera, from the federal government and even the state government. And I think all those things are very, very important. I agree with what Mr. Edwards said, that if not now, then when. We keep talking about affordable housing and we keep saying but. So I think that it's time to kind of put our money where our mouth is. This is to put it on the ballot, period. From that point forward, we can determine what we want to do. And it is a good point that Mr. Durkin made, that we do a lot of legislation up here and determine how we're going to make it happen after the fact. So I think those things are all good points. And I appreciate all the folks who spoke. I'm definitely in favor of this.
Last comments for the council.
I'd like to speak.
Councilor Friday.
Thank you, Heather. The idea is a valiant idea. When towns go out to bond, there's always a discussion amongst the council and whatnot. So personally, I would at least like a comfort level from a financial standpoint. Maybe it's a little more money, maybe it's a little less, but what the ramifications of the $3 million would do. I know it's desperately needed. The town's been on a path of trying to, put some ordinances in place to kind of, look for this full-time person here. And the state is primarily doing the same thing. They've thrown a lot of money on it, but I don't, I think this crisis situation is kind of getting us all out of control where everybody wants to do something, but they just can't find the magic bullet. It takes a little time. So I would just take a pause and say, listen, let the financial director make a good decision as far as at least give us what this ramifications are going to be in the future budgets, rather than just say pass it at all costs. It has to happen now. I understand all of that, but just for a comfort level and a reasonable level, rather than just pass it at all costs, I would at least have like a little more of an explanation of what the ramifications of the bond would be. When they bond the school, when they bond road, there's always discussion about what roads are going to get done, how much we need. So just a little bit more time on that would help from my perspective. But I understand the idea, and I get it. We need it. Everybody's kind of like in crisis mode. This would help. We don't know what project it's going to be. All we want to do is we know we need some money for this somehow, some way. It's a little bit of a desperation, but I understand it. That's how, the town has been, because of all the bad decisions that were made in the past, we're all at the crossroads. And, there's different ways of agreeing and disagreeing on what is right for the town. Like I said, the council has been working in other directions with ordinances, trying to clean up ordinances that were bad, trying to make sure that we didn't have 10-bedroom houses all over the town. A lot of damage has been done here. I understand it. But the way out of this isn't to just spend some money right away on something we think is going to help. So just a little bit more of a financial concern. I mean, you heard what the town manager said. And, we certainly should have it at least looked at by our finance director to just give an idea of what is going to be the payback. You know, how does it attach budgets? I don't want to saddle a future council with all this extra, you know, all these extra issues. So that's my concern. I mean, who is it for it? I get it, but that's my concern. Thank you.
Okay, so I was surprised to see this on the agenda because, usually when we're discussing or having to have discussions with council, we vote on that as a council. So when we engage with legal counsel, we need the approval of the council. I know Councilor Cicilline Bonanno comes from a family of lawyers, so we know that lawyers do not work for free. So by kind of starting this process independently, because it was done unilaterally, it wasn't done with, the council even knowing about this, or we've already racked up about $2,500 in legal fees, which, it is a statement, because if I did this and I put something on the agenda and it wasn't vetted, it wasn't approved for us to move forward, I've actually been approached by other members for this $3 million bond, and I said the best process is to be a recommendation from the Affordable Housing Land Trust, which, it should have been coming there as a council liaison. You could have brought that forward, and we could have moved it forward and said, yes, we want to engage with council and have.
Because it has my name on it?
No, that's not why at all.
Oh, so I wasn't sure because I brought it forward as an item.
You brought it as an item without getting approval to work with legal counsel, so the process wasn't followed. So as a council member, you can't work independently and engage legal counsel. And we've done this in the past where we've had it on the agenda, where we've voted to have, legal counsel work on agenda items, not just work. Nobody knew this was coming forward. We just all of a sudden saw this and then didn't realize that you had been working with bond counsel. The council did not authorize you to do that. That's my issue, is the process. I think with this item, there were questions that I think are important to understand. Again, the financial analysis. We don't have bond counsel to ask. Every time we've had these big, this is a big amount of money, like $3 million, which I support affordable housing, and I want to see this move forward, and we can make it move forward. However, we've always had work sessions or public hearings when this type of money is being considered. And I don't understand why we didn't start off with at least a work session that we would have our bond counsel there, we would have our solicitor there, we would have our finance director, so that any questions or concerns could be evaluated and put to rest. So that's kind of where I'm at. Again, I think this is great, and then I think, but the first step should be a work session. And it is a lot of money, so I'm surprised at this work session. I think we should have a work session on this. We could have a work session, and then we could have this resolution on a future meeting, and we can still make this session, this even number a year, because it is important, but we need to have done our due diligence. When we hear of other municipalities, having concerns, we just want to be able to put those concerns to rest. I would love to see this move forward, but I would love to see a work session with our bond counsel, who's not here today. We can't ask any questions, and our finance director. We've always had work sessions, and I think a work session is. Well, I'm just saying, as a work session, this isn't a work session.
I think it's getting late. Let's just call it to a vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm voting no for the reasons given, that I wanted to see a work session, and the process was not followed. And when we talk about discussing processes can be developed later, that's different. That's when it's more of the outlining how things are going to move along with, for example, our short-term rental ordinance. We can discuss that with a workflow from that end. But this is
We didn't have a work session for that.
We did?
We did not. We had a public hearing. We did not have a work session.
But we had a public hearing. That's the point. When we've had big items that we've put forward, we've had public hearings about parking, we've had public hearings. Yeah, and we will let them decide. All I'm saying is that I think it's important to have a work, we can have it, I can schedule it for the next meeting. We can have a work session. And then the work session, we can answer all the questions, and I want to see this back on there once we have all the answers. So, Mr. Edwards, don't be concerned because I'm on board with it. Again, it's a lot to have, to put forward.
Council President, rather than voting it up or down, could we vote to have a work session on it and not vote it down tonight?
I think it's important to have a work session. If you want to continue this, we could definitely continue this, Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, rather than
Okay,
like voting it down.
I want to stop with the lectures, and I want to stop. We can continue it, but I don't really appreciate you talking to me about how things weren't done in the right way, because I don't want to hear that with the public either. So let's just continue it if you want, but I don't need a lecture on how I need to do things, because I don't want to put anybody in a bad situation. So let's just continue it.
We'll continue it. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion, wait, let's do the motion. The motion to continue by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno. Second, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Kopech. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion by Councilor Lawler, second by